Hi, I'm Melissa, and thank you for joining me on the Book Break. Today we're talking to horror writer Mark Leslie Lefebvre. His stories are pretty scary, but he's not. Let's go talk to him. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Mark. I'm excited to talk to you. So first, I want our viewers to know you write fiction and nonfiction and horror.
Yes.
Because you know, like, some scary stories.
Yes, I do.
And that's Mark Leslie?
Yeah, Mark Leslie is for the true ghost story books I write, as well as the horror and the Twilight Zone fiction that I write. And then the nonfiction stuff about the business of publishing and writing is Mark Leslie Lefebvre. Only because I'm known in that.
Yes.
And in the other regard, nobody can pronounce Lefebvre.
Right.
And so I use my middle name, Mark Leslie, since I started publishing.
Awesome. And how long ago did you start publishing?
First story came out in 1992, a small press magazine. So that was my very first short story, and I've been selling short stories and books ever since.
So tell me more about some of your horror books. And then these are scary books, right?
I think so, yeah. Or more Twilight Zone. It's more weird fiction and strange things that happen. So I think One Hand Screaming was my very first collection of short stories, which was eerie, creepy tales. I think more of my stuff may lean towards dark humor, because you can't tell a scary story without you get that chill, you get that feeling, and sometimes there's nervous laughter.
Right.
And I find that
I laugh when I'm nervous.
Exactly. And so I find
right now I must be nervous.
You must be, yeah. Well, because this hotel is haunted. That's why.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. And I think I find I go to dark humor a lot because it's an easy emotion to play off. So when you're deep in an emotion of fear in a story, you can move to humor, and it's somewhat relief, but it's that nervous tension of ha, that was not real, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, tell me you're joking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I know you have some digital stuff as well.
Yeah, so I have this series, Nocturnal Screams, which is basically short horror stories on a theme. So, one of the themes might be encounters with strangers and how that can go terribly wrong sometimes. And then I just released them as digital chapbooks. There's going to be 8 in the series. I think I've only got 6 or 7 out. I'm trying to remember which ones are out and which ones are still in production. And again, it's just a great way for people to read some of my shorter fiction, because it has been a while with other projects I've worked on nonfiction. I just did a true ghost story book last year that took a lot of research time, and so that allows the people who like my fiction to enjoy it before the next novel comes out.
Yeah, and so with this digital series, give me a little bit of what we can expect in it.
One of the stories would be a story that's about sensory deprivation. So you go in for peace of mind and you relax and whatever. And I thought, well, what if your senses are so deprived that you would actually start losing your senses the longer you stay there? But what if with the loss of a sense you gained something that you really wanted? So it's kind of like a monkey's paw. With the horror is, do you really want the wish? What if you got what you wished for?
Yeah.
Could that be a bad thing? One of the other tales is the concept of, could somebody bore you to death? And I thought that would be a fun story to write, about somebody getting bored to death. So again, that's a great encounter. So a lot of the horror comes out of questions that I just ask myself. And then the dark humor in one of the tales is, what if Frosty the Snowman actually came to life? Would he be dancing around? Would he be jolly and happy? Well, he has no legs. He has a ball of, he has weak sticks for flailing in the wind. He can't do much. What kind of life would that be?
Yeah.
Again, more maybe thinking about Frankenstein's monster's perspective of what it was like to be created when he didn't ask to be created. And what would the apocalypse be for a snowman?
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I'm excited. And then, what are some other books that are paperback? Sometimes we have viewers that just want to hold the book.
Yeah, so I think A Canadian Werewolf in New York, and it's dark humor thriller, and it's set in New York, and there's a Canadian from a small town living in New York. He happens to be cursed with lycanthropy, and he wakes up naked in Battery Park with a bullet in his leg, and he has to get across the city, try to figure out how to get clothes, and so he ends up, it's an accidental hero who always loved Spider-Man and is now living in Manhattan, and he has these extra powers, and he uses them to help people. He doesn't want to be a hero, but it's one of those types of stories. The sequel to that will be coming out called Fear and Longing in Los Angeles. So again, I'm having fun playing on known titles because it's that sort of wry sense of humor, and that's one. Macabre Montreal is a book of true ghost stories that came out just this last fall. And again, it's more, Montreal's a city in French city in Canada,
Yeah.
in Quebec. And again, it was true stories. So for example, one of the chapters is about Harry Houdini, who the reason he died was because of an encounter with a Montreal student.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a Mark Twain story where Mark Twain had a supernatural experience at a hotel in Montreal. And so there's all kinds of, when you do a ghost story book like that, you learn so many fascinating things about maybe your own city or a city you've only visited as a tourist, and that can be really scary but also fascinating.
Are you from Quebec?
No, I live near Toronto in Ontario.
Oh, okay.
But I like writing. My co-author Shana Krishnasamy lives in Montreal, and she said, "Hey, I can do the research here. I can go take pictures. Let's write the book together." And so some of my ghost story books are collaborations with an author who lives near where I'm doing it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. So another thing I've got to mention, I mean, sometimes we have our viewers that want to be authors and learn, of course, from your success. So you have nonfiction books. We've got the 7 P's of Publishing Success right here, and then Killing It on Kobo.
Right.
Give me a quick little, tell me what are in these books, and if they're a new author, what can they get from this?
Okay, well, I'll start with 7 P's of Publishing Success because it's very small and it's based on a principle. I started off when I was talking to writers, because I've been doing that for 20 years. What are the traits most common in successful authors, whether they're traditionally published or indie published or self-published? And I started with patience, practice, and persistence because it rolled off the tongue beautifully. But then I realized maybe I should put them into a book because some people prefer that format rather than hearing it. And when I started with the P's, I went, okay, patience, practice, persistence. Oh yeah, but professionalism. What about progression? Because if you practice but you don't get better. What about partnership, collaboration? And so I continued and I got to 7 P's. My editor said, you're done, stop with the P's.
Right.
Now, but again, so I try to use examples from both my own experience and experience of authors that I've worked with. And again, it's a generic book. It's relatively inexpensive because it's very, very small. And so that's one that's kind of good for anyone. Just at beginning, I think, would be good. And then Killing It on Kobo is based on my 6 years of working at Kobo and the insights on how people, because there's billions of books on how to do things on Amazon, but not on another retailer.
Thank you. That's so great. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Mark. And thank you for joining us today on The Book Break. Hi, I'm Melissa, the host of the show The Book Break, and today I would love to tell you about the book The Purple World by Dr. Joseph Q. Jarvis. In this book, he relates stories that show us how our healthcare system is broken and gives us a solution for how we can fix it.
Whoa, little lady. I thought we talked about this.
Did you know over 70% of Americans say our healthcare system is in crisis?
Wrong.
We need to do something about this. Pick up the book The Purple World, Healing the Harm in American Healthcare by Dr. Joseph Q. Jarvis.